Let's talk about Gibraltar and what's going on there. Today, David Lammy, on behalf of this country, handed control of the border between our British territory, Gibraltar and Spain, in other words, the EU, to the EU. So Brussels now controls that border. Why has he done this? Let's talk to a spokesperson for Friends of the British Overseas Territories, Robert Midgley. Robert, hi. The government says that it's inherited a difficult situation that put Gibraltar's economy and way of life under threat, and this is a great breakthrough that delivers a practical solution. I mean, I don't really understand what he's talking about. Why, in your view, can you work out why we've handed control of this important border of British territory to Brussels?
Well, to start with, Kevin, thanks for having me on. This announcement is quite vague. There's not much detail in it. We'll see the full details when the treaty is presented, and I think the devil will be in the detail there. What I will say, there are good factors to this and bad factors to this, I think. This is a good thing because it's been going on since Brexit. They came out at the same time we did, therefore we had to negotiate on behalf of them. So we've been working with them for a few years now and getting this over the line. There's been a lot holding it back. But also, if you've ever tried to get into Gibraltar by land, you'll be stuck in queues for hours. 15,000 people cross that border every single day, and Spain play tricks in holding up queues. They don't like the fact that Gibraltar is British, and there's been a real congestion of flow with people going across the border. So what they've announced, and this is the only physical thing that I've been able to point out here, is that they're not removing the border completely. They've moved the physical border, well, the physical border's staying there, but they're moving the checkpoint into the airport. From what I understand, that would be like a St. Pancras-style checkpoint that will have Spanish or EU staff controlling it, and then British staff controlling it. Now, there's a few issues with that. Yes, it's good that they've come up with a solution, but also when you access the EU in a few months' time, you'll be paying for a visa. You'll be doing the 90-day limit. We've not had that with Gibraltar before, so it seems quite strange that now we would have to then pay for a visa that would be a 90-day visit to access our own overseas territory. So that needs to be explained a bit more, because this hasn't been explained at all. That this is going to be quite a big issue. Also, locals have already voiced concerns, because without that border, it raises concerns about customs. What happens with the amount of smuggling that goes across? I don't know if you know this, but Gibraltar has its own tax regime on alcohol and cigarettes, and there's a bit of smuggling that goes on. And locals have already voiced concern there about smuggling across the border. Who's going to be there to stop this? Who's monitoring this? The current border will still be in place, but not operable. But they said that they will still have some police on that border, but people are voicing concern.
So what we've done here is, because the Spanish have been playing dirty tricks and making the border difficult to get through, because they don't like the fact that Gibraltar is British, we've kind of capitulated to that and just said, all right, then the EU can control this border. Perhaps we should have told the Spanish, well, you can carry on playing your dirty tricks, we're not going to play this game.
Well, the thing is that that southern tip of Spain, like I said, 15,000 people depend on the Gibraltar economy. That's people working in hotels, restaurants, Gibraltarians who can't afford to live in Gibraltar, live there, family, neighbours, friends. They're all coming across. So a no deal or closing that border would harm Gibraltar's economy and that whole southern tip.
But when you say no deal, no, I mean, I get. I mean, why do we need a deal? I mean, you know, hasn't the border always been like this ever since Brexit or before? Why do we suddenly need a deal?
Well, why did we need a Brexit deal?
Well, that's it. Well, we voted for that, didn't we? So
yeah. And they came out with us as well, with our other overseas territories. So there's been good factors and bad factors. But like I said, the devil will be in the detail once the treaty is released. And we'll be able to see if we're now having to pay for visa access into our own overseas territory.
But we could have just left it as it is, and then the British would have kept control of our sovereign border there.
No, I completely agree with that. But Spain would have made their lives a complete misery.
Well, I
In
don't. I don't think. I think we should have said to Spain, "Carry on. We're not giving the EU or anyone else control of our sovereign border." I don't see why we should capitulate and bow to their bully boy tactics.
No, and they have been bullying us, since the border opened. They enter Gibraltarian territorial waters every single day, unauthorized access, and the Guardia Civil constantly come up against the Royal Navy there and the local police. This isn't a new issue. This is, we're trying to ease tensions. Yes, I don't particularly believe in soft power diplomacy myself. But a deal had to be done. There has to be some compromise somewhere, just to get them off our backs.
Oh, maybe. I'm not. I mean, I know you're not here as a representative of the EU or Gibraltar or whatever, but I'm not necessarily buying the fact that a deal had to be done. We could have stood firm.
Kevin, that we're yet to find out if this costs anything. We've seen with the Czech Islands issue that it's going to go into £30 billion. How much is this deal being costed? So we're yet to see these details, and I'm sure they'll come out in the next few weeks.
What's your feeling? I mean, we were trying to get hold of anybody from Gibraltar today, but couldn't seem to do so. What's your feeling about the people in Gibraltar? I mean, how are they sort of feeling about this new deal?
They're concerned about security, first and foremost. They're worried about criminal gangs coming across. They're worried about the smuggling. They're worried about crime rates increasing in Gibraltar. That's their general feeling. That's their number one priority.
Interesting. So they've got a lot of concerns. But as you were saying at the start of this conversation, we're going to have to wait and find out what the details are. As I say, my basic point is, and I'm only approaching this from a very outsider, amateurish kind of viewpoint, but my basic feeling is, this is a British territory. The British control that border, and I don't understand why we would be interested in giving control of that border to anyone else.
Well, like I said, it's going to be a joint effort now. Yes, I don't agree with it. We don't like the idea of your EU or Spanish, border people being inside our airport, but we have done that with London St Pancras. We do have French and British, and
it's kind of different. But I take your point. Listen, Robert, it's good to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. Robert Midgley, there, spokesperson for the Friends of the British Overseas Territories. What do you think about that? I mean, as I say, why? I mean, OK, it's a difficult border, but it's ours. So Lammy, well, it's all causing so many problems. Let's give it to the EU. Why?